The House of Commons erupted into chaos this week, but not over Brexit, immigration, or even the economy. This time, the flashpoint was something far more visceral. Mountains of uncollected rubbish in Birmingham, and a single explosive accusation that lit the parliamentary fuse. Keir Starmer, leader of the opposition, was branded a disgrace during PMQs, triggering an unprecedented backlash from Labour MPs. This was no ordinary political skirmish. It was a window into Labour's deepening crisis of credibility on local governance, and the Conservatives' ruthless exploitation of it. Stick around, because this analysis will reveal 3 critical lessons every voter needs to understand before the next election. If you want sharp, unfiltered political insights, hit subscribe now. Let's start with the immediate context. Birmingham City Council, Europe's largest local authority, has become the poster child for municipal failure. After issuing a Section 114 notice last year, effectively declaring bankruptcy, the council has cut services to the bone. But the uncollected waste crisis is what finally brought this disaster into the national spotlight. Satellite images show trash piles so vast they are visible from space, a fact Conservative backbenchers weaponized with surgical precision. The real story here isn't just the dysfunction in Birmingham. It's how this single issue exposed Labour's vulnerability on competence, a pillar of Starmer's leadership brand. Now, consider the strategic playbook. The Conservative MP's intervention wasn't spontaneous. It followed a months-long Tory campaign framing Labour as a party that can't manage basic services. Since 2022, 5 Labour-run councils have issued Section 114 notices, compared to just 1 under Conservative control. The Department for Levelling Up's own data shows Labour councils have seen a 19% larger reduction in waste collection frequency since austerity began. By focusing on Birmingham, a city with a proud Labour history, the Tories turned local failure into a national character test. But the Labour response was equally revealing. Frontbenchers didn't dispute the facts about Birmingham. Instead, they pivoted to systemic underfunding of local government, a legitimate argument that landed poorly in the theatre of PMQs. Shadow Communities Secretary Lisa Nandy's recent warning about 15 additional councils nearing bankruptcy never cut through. Why? Because visceral images of rotting trash override spreadsheet arguments. This is where Starmer's team miscalculated. Their technocratic instincts collided with the Conservatives' emotional framing, and lost. Here's what most commentators missed. The disgrace accusation wasn't really about waste. It was a proxy for Labour's wider electoral challenge. Polling by YouGov this week shows 42% of voters now associate Labour with poor public service management, up 11 points since 2023. Even more damning, 67% of swing voters in Midlands marginals rank local service delivery as a top 3 issue. The Tories have effectively turned council failures into a referendum on Labour's readiness for power. If you're finding this analysis valuable, pause and hit subscribe. We're just getting to the most explosive insights. The Birmingham crisis also exposes a deeper tension in Starmer's leadership. His pledge to restore trust in politics requires distancing himself from Corbyn-era failures, yet council mismanagement often traces back to decisions made during that period. Birmingham's equal pay liability, for instance, stems from a 2012 agreement Labour now calls misguided. This creates an impossible balancing act. Admitting past errors validates Tory attacks, while deflecting blame seems evasive. Starmer's strained reaction at PMQs, rare for his usually disciplined persona, suggests he knows this trap could define Labour's campaign. Now, let's examine the parliamentary dynamics. The Speaker's struggle to maintain order during the exchange wasn't just procedural drama. It reflected a broader breakdown in Westminster norms. Since 2019, interventions breaching parliamentary courtesy have risen by 30%, per House of Commons library data. The rise of performative politics, exemplified by this incident, rewards viral moments over substantive debate. One backbencher shouting disgrace generates more headlines than a dozen thoughtful speeches on local government reform. This degradation of discourse should worry anyone who values accountable democracy. But there's an underreported angle with major implications. While Labour floundered, the Liberal Democrats quietly capitalized. In by-elections like Somerton and Frome, they've gained ground by positioning as competent local champions. Their targeting of Tory shire councils is working. Could they exploit Labour's urban weakness next? Recent Survation polling shows Lib Dem support rising in Birmingham wards, a trend Labour's national team is nervously monitoring. As we approach the conclusion, let's synthesize the key takeaways. First, local government failures are now national political ammunition, with Birmingham as ground zero. Second, Labour's response lacked the emotional resonance needed to counter visceral Tory attacks. Third, this incident signals a broader shift toward confrontational politics that rewards spectacle over substance. The question isn't just whether Starmer can recover. It's whether British politics can function when Council's actual challenges are reduced to PMQs soundbites. Looking ahead, the Birmingham crisis will escalate. With the Council proposing a 21% council tax hike and further service cuts, this story has months to run. For Starmer, the path forward requires tangible solutions, perhaps a Marshall Plan for local government, rather than defensive rhetoric. For voters, it's a reminder that competence isn't just about Westminster. It's about whether your bins get collected. If you want ongoing analysis of this developing story, subscribe now. The next chapter promises to be even more revealing.